Hello, and welcome to the Literacy Leadership Coach Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything education and literacy. I am one of your co-hosts, Kimberly Bradley, and I am here with...
I'm Erica Glenn.
And today we are going to be talking about a few things. We'll discuss evaluations, but we first want to talk about hot topics. We usually have a hot topics to start our segments. And today's hot topic is how professional development can assist us in retaining our teachers, right? So the Institute for Multisensory Education found that only 62% of teachers last 5 years, which means that we are continually hiring new teachers. And in doing so, it is imperative that we support them through professional development. And in doing that, we will be able to retain more of the teachers that we have.
Get the help that they need.
Yes, and then we'll get the help that they need. I think it's important, especially with the way that school districts nowadays have to hire teachers too. Sometimes those folks are not necessarily, traditionally trained. They have the heart for the profession. They care about the kids and they add value, but they may not have that background from the training that they had. They may be coming from different industries. So it's important that we provide them with support. What are your thoughts about PD and the role that leaders play?
Well, I guess I want to go back to kind of what I hear in the hallways from the teachers or the teachers' lounge. Is that, when you say PD, is like, a grumble. It's like a curse word. Like, no, I do not want to participate in PD. And I think that the reason for that sometimes is because the PD it's not timely. Like, I remember as being a teacher, like the first day of school, we're back and we have meetings, and the principal decides, we got a new curriculum, and we're gonna have the curriculum rep come and go through the book and show you all the pieces and all the fabulous things that are in this manual. And there's probably good things in there, but it's too much. It's too much information. I'm only gonna have that PD that one day, and then I won't see that person again. And then I'm really thinking about getting my room together. Mm-hmm. I'm really thinking about, I'm going to think about this at some point, but not today. Mm-hmm. So I think the issue with why PD is sometimes like a bad word is because it's not relevant sometimes to what's going on, or the time is not good.
Yes, I think that's a good point. To pair with that is sometimes PD, and you kind of hit on this a little bit, is not differentiated to the needs of the teachers. So everybody gets the same type of PD with the same topics, and that may not be the needs that the teachers have. A new teacher versus a teacher who's more seasoned will have different needs, and I think us school leaders need to consider that so that the professional development meets the needs of the teachers, just like you want instruction to meet the needs of your students.
Yeah, I guess on the principal's end or their defense, or just to speak to that, is if I'm looking at all of the needs, there might be, if I have 25 teachers, there might be 25 needs. And so I think that is done because finances, for one. I'm only going to get that one rep. I don't have 5 reps to divide them into groups.
Okay.
And planning, like if I'm giving a PD, it's one of me, and then how am I going to build this in so that everybody gets kind of what they need. So that makes it a challenge. It's not that it can be done, but it has to be creative.
Similar to how we harp on teachers to differentiate in the classroom. They may have 25 different students with 25 different needs. And you're right, it's not something that's necessarily easy to do. It is probably better to do, but maybe not as easy to do. The other thing I think we want to consider is that our new teachers need the support, studies have shown, in order to stay in the profession. And you need at least 3 years of concentrated support in order to really get good at your craft. And so not only that one, you said that one time I may have gotten PD on X, Y, and Z, where I need 3 years worth of support. And so that's where the school leader needs to build in the support over time. The other thing that you could do if you're a school leader is utilize your staff. You know, the teachers can support each other. There are teachers who can run a professional development in your building on various topics and do it really well and be engaging, and then you'll find that your teachers really enjoy that.
Yeah, they're more open to take it from a colleague.
Yeah, somebody they know, they trust, they've seen them in action.
Yeah. So those are good pieces. The other thing is, to add to this, is that when you're in college, at least in my experience when we were in school, our methods classes, you might take a class that exposed you to children's literacy or literature. So you would look at different authors and different books and different genres. Sometimes you might have to do the reading, like different books on different topics, but it wasn't so much instruction on how to teach someone how to read. So if you have a little body in front of you, what are the steps? And that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So PD is needed for that, for sure.
Yeah, because people aren't necessarily coming out. I think that back in the Stone Age when we were teaching in the beginning, whole language was a big push at that time. And so the focus for pre-service was not around foundational literacy skills necessarily. It was the student as a whole. I think there's some shifts now perhaps, but teachers are still coming to the building without those really solid foundational skills around teaching students how to read. Not everyone, but there are some.
Yeah, I think my mom was a teacher, so I had that background. I never just thought whole language was it. We did the thematic teaching and such, and with the units, but we always had all of those pieces included.
I think we were lucky too. Our school district really focused on some of those early literacy, foundational literacy skills, and so we used Dibbles, Orton Gillingham, and all of that, but that was still in the midst of a big push for whole language. So, yeah. All right, so that concludes our discussion on hot topics. We want to delve into our main topic for our session, and it is on evaluations. And one thing I want to say is that when our state, I think it was statewide, maybe district-wide, was adopting a new evaluation tool, probably around 2009, 2010. It was very important to me to know how to properly evaluate the teachers utilizing that manual and utilizing that tool. I read that manual word for word from front to back, partially because I felt responsible to do it right. You don't want to evaluate someone incorrectly simply because you don't have the knowledge that you need to utilize the tool right? And then it was based on pay. There was some compensation attached to that. And so I just really felt the responsibility to know how to do it well, to know all of the nuances about the rubric, and that was key.
Yeah. I think that the thing that comes to mind when I think about evals is I think about your bias. Like when I started doing evals, I wasn't aware that I had bias because this was a long time ago, I would look at the class and then I would think like, this class doesn't look like my class. So if it didn't look like my class, that would give me an idea, like, well, let me see what's really going on in here. And when you're doing an evaluation, the classroom doesn't have to look like the person's style is their style. And everybody is not going to have your way of teaching. And what's important to look at and what this whole thing is about is if the students are learning. Right. So when you're in the room, be aware of your bias that, okay, this might look a little different, but let me really see what are the students doing? If they're understanding and learning from this person, and it doesn't look like this, that I don't know why I wouldn't.
Whatever that template of a classroom.
Right, your
is
mental
in your
model,
mind.
what it looks like, it might not be that, and it can still be effective.
Right.
So just to be aware of that, because at the onset, I wasn't even aware of that I was doing this. So it's just something to keep in mind.
I think that is a really good point. One of the things we want to delve into is the fear of those difficult conversations. So whenever you're going to evaluate, more than likely that may come up. How did you handle that?
Seeing as I'm still a principal, sometimes that might, it's a possibility that can still come up. So I guess what I try to do is, and that's just not just with evals, it's just any time I'm speaking to someone, I try to put myself in that person's position. If it was my principal talking to me, would I want them to say it to me this way? And you're human, like you might mess up. Go back to the person and say, you know what, I didn't say that to you right. But when you're in the room and you're having that you're gonna have that kind of conversation, try to be empathetic, like put yourself into that person's place and how would they feel? How would you want to be spoken to? How would you want your boss to talk to you? And take it from that lens instead of, because you're their boss, like you have that
There's
authority.
a level
You
of
don't
power
want to crush.
you don't.
Yes, you want to crush.
Absolutely. I think when you're having those difficult conversations, I think it's key sometimes, especially if you have some anxiety around it, to maybe practice, practice in the mirror, practice with a friend. This is what I'm thinking of saying. Maybe let's try it out a different way. Maybe there's a way to say it that is not crushing to someone, especially if it's something that nobody wants to hear.
Right.
So.
I think the other thing to remember, and I might have said it, is that the point of the eval is to lead to help the teacher. It's to help them if they're having a struggle, to help them look at some other ways of doing that. Let's look at some different options of how to get at what we need to get at, is that the kids are learning. So if you keep that in mind and the person knows that is your goal, is not to step on you or say, you're a terrible teacher, but to help, to improve, and it's looked at as kind of like growth mindset. I might not be there yet. So just put that to the forefront when you're talking to that person, so that they don't have that, forget it, I'm just done. I don't,
right.
There's no
point. We want to keep our teachers.
Yes.
We don't have many of them. We want to keep our teachers. All right, so the other topic that we had to discuss with you guys today is imposter syndrome. That feeling that sometimes happens when you're the school leader and you feel a little inadequate to evaluate others, that can kind of really play with you. That can mess you up. So what do you think about that?
I think that imposter syndrome stems from wanting to be perfect. I don't want to make a mistake, and I wouldn't say I have it in this area, but I've had it in other areas, and it can be stifling. Like it can keep you from doing anything. So my advice to someone who feels that way is you're going to make a mistake. Like that's going to happen. So it's not going to be intentional. You're not going to intentionally make mistakes. You're going to be as educated about this as you can be. But there's going to be a mistake. You're going to miss something, or something's going to happen. And that's okay. You can just go back and correct it.
That's true.
So,
like being willing to be humble enough when you do make that mistake to apologize. Like you can apologize, talk it through, work through it. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think also getting the training, or not so much training, but just kind of making certain that if you are a school leader, and let's say your training has been in secondary, but you find yourself the principal of an elementary building, and all of your background is not quite that.
Right.
You may really need to ensure that you have some sense of the content you kind of know instructional strategies for elementary students, so that when you walk into that classroom, you're kind of aware of what you would expect to see. And that may help with some of the imposter syndrome, because you are more able to look at things that should be there and know that this is appropriate or not, and that can make or break how you feel going into that classroom. Just vice versa, if you are more trained for elementary and you find yourself the principal of a high school, wow, and you have to evaluate an algebra teacher, that's not really your background, that may be another way to, get those lesson plans ahead of time. Take a look at it. If you need to study up on whatever that content is, I think it's important to do that, because that'll help you with feeling like, I don't know that I can say X, Y, or Z to this teacher. And then the other thing is good teaching is good teaching. Like, we say that all the time. Like, it doesn't matter the level or the content. You can tell when there are good instructional strategies happening.
Yeah, something you were saying about, practicing, and if it's not your element, like, I know do not belong in high school at all. But if I were to have to, be in that position, I would find a mentor. I would find someone who's also in high school, and if I'm not sure about something, it's like I said, it's you're gonna make a mistake. So bounce it off that person. Yeah. Find a mentor or someone who can help you in that aspect. And then the other thing I think about is to help you is to think about the principal who they gave you an eval and you were open to receiving it. That what was it that about that person that made you feel open to receiving it, yeah, and then do those things. Mm-hmm. So, like in my case, I've had some really good principals that would nurture me and help me move on, and I've had some not so good ones. Wow. So the persons who I respected, that person, I knew that they knew what they were doing, and I knew that they had my best interest in mind, that they were trying to help me, and they had a relationship with me. So they see me, they see what I'm about and what I'm doing. That's the person that I can take something from. So be that to your teachers. See them. They're people. So I might be really good at this, and then I'm not. That doesn't mean throw the whole thing out. Right. We can work on this, and then let them know. I see the work that you're doing. I see what you're trying to do. Let's figure this out together and be a partner. Yeah. Not the judge. This is it.
Right. All right. So our next topic is feedback. So you've done your evaluation, you've gotten into the classroom, and now it's time to sit down and have feedback around what you saw. What do you do?
Well, I think what is important to mention, I don't think I mentioned it before, is that when you're giving feedback, I know that eval is just that moment in time. Ours are like the long ones are 40 minutes, and the shorter ones are the quick ones are, I think, 5 minutes. So I think it's important to not have that 40-minute one, that long one, have been your only visit. So if you're frequently doing walkthroughs and always in the teachers' classrooms, you have a sense of what is a normal day for them, what typically happens in a classroom, so that when you are in that 40-minute time frame, you're in there, you're typing, doing your whole thing, scripting and such, that you have that knowledge of kind of how the classroom works. And John might be doing something right now, so you're going to not necessarily negate what John might be doing. I sometimes hear teachers say, "Well, he wasn't doing that until you came in."
Yes.
You're not going to punish the teacher for what John is doing. Right. I'm going to look at how the teacher handles it. So, So when you're giving that feedback, you're going to say, these are the point. You have a point of reference to give feedback, and the person will take that feedback. Mm-hmm. But your feedback is going to be, it's going to be on time. It's going to be timely, and it's going to be actionable. So it's not like these vague ghostly things that you're saying.
Do better.
Yes, you're going to say something specific so that the person can actually act on it.
Right. I think that's important. The just go do or do this a little bit better does not help anybody. You have to be clear so that the person feels like it's something that I actually can do. The next step might be some support around that. Like that might be the support you give that person because you have those actionable steps to take. We were talking a little bit about how to give feedback. And I'll let Erica talk a little bit to it, and then I'll tell you kind of how we did it. But around this, whether or not you should sandwich compliments, like you say something good. I'm sure you guys heard of it. Say something good, then you say the little bad thing you gotta say, and then you say something else good or whatever, positive, and
Yeah, I guess the controversy. We had like a training this year. We have one every year, and the person was saying, "Don't do that. Like, don't sandwich." Because when you make the sandwich, the person's gonna only hear the good parts, and they're not gonna hear that middle part that you said. You really need to work on this part. You're not gonna even hear that. So I guess when I that made me really think. Like I always do say something good because I don't want to just be negative.
Yes.
Or even constructive criticism sometimes can be taken as. You're never satisfied. You never see the good things. So I think there's a place for telling the person that they did well. But I always start mine with, how do you think it went? So that they have a chance to speak and make it a conversation, not just this is my take on it, because they're in the classroom too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there may have been some things that you didn't pick up on, and that even though you were there for 40 minutes, that is relevant for you to understand or know about what was happening in the situation. So we were talking about whether or not, sandwiching is something that we both did. I think I have a more direct personality, but I also build relationships with the teachers, and so would be able to get to the same point as what you did, just in a different way. But still having that empathy for the teacher, building that relationship like you were saying in our earlier conversation, and being knowledgeable about what you're looking at, and being having something that, if you had to record what was going on, that is actually what was happening and not some spin of what you thought was occurring.
Right. I think the other thing too is if there's, like, sometimes I've had a new person, and there might be several things. Like, you don't have to mark everything. You don't have to mark everything on there. Just pick, like, in your thinking, what can this person work on? Because that's what it's supposed to be, something that you can work on. So let's pick these 2 or 3 things, and then inside of those 2 or 3 things, let's you pick which ones do you think we can, and try to make it bite-sized. Now, you have to balance that on what's going on with the kids, because that's the bottom line. Absolutely. They have to be learning. It can't be, if there's no teaching going on, we're just gonna pick lining up. That's not gonna work. So it has to be couched inside of where the students are learning, and go from there. But always try to include the person in that conversation. Let them have some autonomy on what they're going to work on, and then even some options on, you could try this or this or this, or let's research it together, and look at some options, and then what feels comfortable to you that you could try.
Yeah, I think that yes, all of those will lead to a less stressful feedback session, and then it will allow for the school itself to start to take on that culture of continuous learning. All right, so our next and our final thing to discuss today is wanting to be liked. School, being a school principal, sometimes you're going to, of course, have to make difficult difficult decisions is what I mean. And that is going to more than likely result in folks not always liking you, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much out the window.
Yes.
Like, you're not going to be, you're just not, if you're a good principal, people will respect you.
Yes.
But everybody's not going to like you. And it could be on any given day, on any given topic or decision.
Right.
Sometimes it'll come out of nowhere. Like, you were upset about that? Like, I didn't have any idea. So, on the side part of this is to try to always collaborate with people and get them involved. But it's just not going to happen.
Especially if you are stewarding a school that is wanting to improve, which is most of the schools. Because even if you're at 80% proficient on both ELA and math, there's still areas of improvement. I worked with a school district, and that's kind of where they were, but they brought us in to do an evaluation of their curriculum because they wanted to improve. And they found a couple of areas, but what I'm saying is, even in that superintendent, those principals who were trying to create improvement in the building, some kind of change, there are going to be people who do not appreciate that because I want to. Change is hard. Now I want to kind of keep doing the things that I've been doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you will be liked by some, but not everybody.
Yeah.
And you can't let that be a stumbling block to you. Like, even when you're gonna have a critical conversation, well, how's that person gonna? You have to just do what your bottom line is the kids gotta learn. So
right.
You're the person. You're gonna have to tell them, and you might see things, like while you're just in your regular day, you need to address those things and not just sweep it under the rug and talk about it later.
Yes.
Or because it's not about being liked. I mean, it's nice, but
that's not the focus. The why, whatever your why is, which is student learning, student outcomes, that has to drive the decisions that you make. You do have to build those relationships with your teachers. They understand your why and they support that. Then you're going to be less disliked, but being loved by every single person all day long. That's not what this is. It just is not. I think the other thing to consider is that leadership versus friendship piece.
Yeah, that could be funny. Like I've been in a school where I think we were there.
Yeah.
We taught there and then we went back and you were principal and was like, oh.
So you have relationships on the teacher level with the folks that now you're the school leader.
Yeah. So there, you can have. I think in my experience, we can be friends, but our friendship can't be a barrier to everyone doing what they need to do. So it could be my friend, like I work with you and we're friends, but it can't be that I'm using my friendship to be a place where I get away with doing something or not doing anything. It can't be that.
Because that'll just erode the climate and culture in your building too. Absolutely right. There have to be some professional boundaries that exist. Because again, if you're stewarding a school that is on the path to improvement, you're going to make difficult decisions, and it has to be across the board.
Right.
It can't be like you say, well, so and so's friends with the principal, so they don't have to do X, Y, and Z. No, that you want to lead with integrity, and so that will quickly erode the integrity of your building.
Yeah.
So, all right, those are our topics for today. We talked about, of course, how professional development, our hot topic, professional development can lead to the retention of your teachers. We talked about the fear of those difficult conversations. Like, that could be a whole podcast probably in and of itself. We talked about how imposter syndrome can come up and really cause you to kind of feel like, ooh, do I know enough to be able to evaluate the teachers? We talked about feedback, and finally that fear of being liked or not liked. And I think today, if there are some points that really resonated with you, make certain that you comment below, give us a like, follow. We'll be back in 2 weeks when we talk about climate and culture in your building, how to cultivate that positive climate. And we're really excited that you're here today, and join us in 2 weeks.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.